Hi, Turning Point CT, Allie here, and I went to a Narcan training recently, and I thought I'd share with you guys what I learned from there. Now, there are different types of Narcan that Connecticut and the US offer right now. There's currently 4 different kinds. Today, I only have 2 with me, so I'll be showing one that is through your nose and a different one that's going to be through your muscle. First, before I get into that, I'd just like to say that Narcan is also known as Naloxone. It's a opioid reversing, overdose reverse medication. So if you know someone that's overdosed on any opiates, they can have this medication and they can come back from an overdose. It's a life-saving device, and it can be covered by most insurances, or at least given at a cheap price. You can go to any community event that might be hosting it and even not only get trained, but you can also get a kit at the end of the training. I just want everyone to know that there is a Good Samaritan law, which means that if you are on scene at an overdose and you apply Narcan and you call 911, if there's any drugs or paraphernalia that's around the area, then you will not be charged with those drugs or the paraphernalia. If you are trained to administer Narcan, you also don't have to administer it. So if someone does overdose near you, you aren't required to give the Narcan. So today I have 2 different devices. This one is one that's through the muscle, and it is one that is a talking device. So if you see, this is just my trainer one, but the one that is the actual Narcan in it has purple and yellow instead of black and white. So if I pull this
trainer contains no needle or drug.
You can see that it talks to you.
If you are ready to use, pull off red safety guard.
So I pull off this red safety guard.
To inject, place black end against outer thigh, then press firmly and hold in place for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Injection complete.
So I figured I'd show this one to you guys because I thought that this one was really exciting. I thought that it's really helpful because I feel like in situations when there's an emergency, people can get very anxious and very nervous in that crisis situation. So I thought this one was really great. This is one of the more expensive ones, but I do recommend that one. And before I get into the other one that I have, I just want to let you know some prevention ways that you can prevent an overdose. If you use alone, it's dangerous for an overdose because no one would be able to be there to administer the Narcan. Also, if you combine substances like alcohol or other drugs while using opiates, it's also putting you at risk for an overdose. And your tolerance. So if you are actively using and you take some time to stop using and you use again, your tolerance is going to be a lot lower. So if you have a risk of overdosing because of that tolerance being so low and using again. Just to give you a little brief information that I had learned about what signs of an overdose is, one being that the person can't be woken up. So if you're shaking the person and you're yelling at them and they're not responding and there's not even their eyes are moving or any movement on their body, then that's one sign. Another sign is that they either have completely slow breathing or no breathing whatsoever. Their body will be limp. Their fingernails and around their lips will be blue, and you could tell that their skin tone is also very pale or even blue. They could be making gurgling noises, or possibly there could even be vomiting involved, and you can check their eyes. So if you lift open their eyelid, you'll see that they have pinpoint pupils. That's one way to a few signs of an overdose. So if you do see that someone's overdosed, and a lot of times you might already be familiar with the person. So say you're somebody that is a family member that you have someone in your family that's using, that is also a way to know. But if you're a complete stranger and you don't know that person, if you take a look around, you might be able to see in the actual scene that they overdosed maybe some paraphernalia like a needle or empty bags of heroin, or any types of straws in case they snort the heroin. So If you do know that they have overdosed and you decide that you want to administer Narcan, there are many different ways that you can administer it depending on what kind you have. Today I have one of the nasal ones that I'm going to show you. So basically in your kit you have 2 Narcans, and these are 2 milligrams. So Narcan usually comes in 2 milligram or 4 milligram. You also have gloves that I'm going to put on, and you have a face mask in case you wanted to put it on the person. I'm not going to open this one. I don't have a person to demonstrate on, but you can put that. I mean, I understand in crisis situations, you might forget to do all of this, or you might not have time to open anything, but it would be a wise idea to do that, at least in my opinion, and what I've learned from the training, to definitely put on the gloves at least, because nowadays they did recommend to put on the face mask because on the person, because with fentanyl being prevalent in a lot of overdoses, you have to be careful and you have to guard yourself too. The first thing you have to do immediately is call 911. You have to call 911 and let the person know that you are going to be administering Narcan because someone had overdosed. Before you even administer the Narcan, it's a good idea to do a sternum rub, which basically you make a fist, and you just rub right here on their sternum, and you have to press pretty hard, so you just go up and down and move around, and if that still doesn't wake the person, try to do some rescue breaths. So rescue breaths are basically putting the person on their back, tilting their head back so that way it can clear the airflow, make sure that there's nothing in their mouth, or try to look and see if there's anything in their throat that can be blocking the airway, and you pinch their nose and you just start giving breaths. It's basically CPR without the chest compressions. So if you're seeing that after the rescue breathing that there's still no activity and the person is still unresponsive, and that's when you go ahead and you do the Narcan. So if I empty out my kit and even if I empty out both of these, you only need to use one in the beginning, but you're also going to take out this is the nasal part of it. Now, this specific Narcan that I have is one that you have to assemble. Now, as I showed you before, this one's all ready to go right here. One that is through a needle is also that you would put in the arm muscle or the thigh muscle, is one that you would have to assemble as well. I don't have one of those to demonstrate, but there's also another nasal one where it's already completely put together, and all you have to do is push it in and put it in one nostril, and it's ready to go. But for one that may seem a little bit more complicated is one that you have to assemble. So the first step would be check the expiration date, and you just open up the packet and you pull out one of these, so you get everything open and you lay it out. Your next step would be to pop off any caps that you have. So I'm going to pop off the purple cap, and I'm going to pop off this yellow part, and also the bottom part of this. And this is where the assembly begins. Now, I'm also going to recommend to just take a deep breath yourself, because this definitely can be, a lot of adrenaline, and I mean, I can imagine, your hands shaking, and it could be very nerve-wracking, especially if it's a loved one. So just take some time to just breathe yourself. So the first step would be, after you popped off all the caps, you would screw in the part where the purple was before, down at the bottom. So basically it's just a part where you just screw in until you start to feel some resistance. So I'm starting to feel some resistance here, and once I had done that, I take this part and I screw it on, and it's really just a simple screw. It only takes a second. So once I've done that, you then put this part right to the nose, and you inject half in one nostril and inject the other half in one. Now, the trainer that I went to did say that if you did inject it all into one nostril, that's still okay. So that's how you do this Narcan. Now, after you give the Narcan, you continue to do your rescue breathing that you were doing beforehand. And you do that until EMS arrives. Now, if they are not responsive after 2 to 3 minutes of you doing the rescue breathing and there's still no EMS yet, then I would suggest using the other Narcan that's in there, because sometimes it takes more than one injection for someone to come back. Now, after you had administered it, immediately put that person on their side, because they can experience vomiting after being administered Narcan. Just make sure you call 911 and that you wait for 911 and don't, seconds are precious at a moment like this. So I thought I'd just share this with you guys. I thought it was really important to know. If you go to Connecticut's Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services website, they have an official video, and they also have a list of all the places that, pharmacies that give Narcan, and also upcoming community trainings that also have it. I'll attach the link to this video so that way everyone can find out where to get those. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and if you do have an opportunity to get Narcan, if you have someone in your home that you know is using, I strongly suggest that you get it. Thanks!